It is a Tuesday afternoon. A woman fills her cart. Milk, bread, soap, the things she cannot skip. Then she slows near the snack aisle. A small bag of cookies, a candle, a cheap little toy her grandson would love. She holds them for a second. Then she puts them back. She heads for the register carrying a little less than she meant to. Nobody films that moment. No headline picks it up. But it happens in thousands of stores every single day. And it explains something far bigger than one errand. We keep hearing that stores are dying. A Macy's goes dark. A Walgreens quietly vanishes. Another Rite Aid tapes a note to the glass and empties its shelves. The easy answer is theft, or Amazon, or the idea that people just got lazy. That answer is comfortable. It is also wrong. Here is what I think is really happening. These closures are receipts. They are the paper trail of a budget that keeps tightening, month after month, on people who did everything right. You worked. You saved what you could. And the ground still feels like it is sliding under you. So today we count down 12 familiar names. 12 brands that could soon disappear. But watch closely. We are not really counting stores. We are counting signals. 12 signs of what is happening inside ordinary American homes. We start at number 12. Number 12. Walgreens. You stop in for one thing. Toothpaste, maybe. And the first thing you meet is not a product. It is a locked plastic case. Then another. The razors are sealed away. The shampoo is sealed away. Even the cheapest little items sit behind clear plastic with a call button. Walgreens was never the cheapest. It was never the biggest either. It sold one thing. Speed. You needed something now, and it stood right there on the corner. That single promise built more than 8,000 stores. Convenience was the whole game. Now the whole game is cracking. To fight organized theft, more shelves get locked every month. And here's the quiet trap. A 2-minute errand becomes a 10-minute hunt for a key. People do not visit a drugstore to browse. They grab and go. When that stops being fast, the habit snaps. But let me push on the theft story. It is the answer everyone reaches for. So play it out. Say every product got locked up tomorrow. Say the stealing stopped cold. Would the customers come back? I do not think so. Because the deeper question was never about theft. It is whether people can still afford the item once the case opens. And that answer is getting harder every quarter. The company plans to shut around 1,200 stores. That is close to 15% of everything it runs. And when a Walgreens leaves your block, you did not just lose toothpaste. Older neighbors lose the pharmacy they've leaned on for years. Prescriptions are not something you swap on a whim. That kind of loss is a lot harder to replace than a tube of toothpaste. Number 11. Macy's. You can read a dying mall without an earnings report. Just check the parking lot on a Saturday. Count the storefronts still lit. And one of the loudest warning signs is simple. Macy's starts to shrink. For many families, this was never just a store. It was the back-to-school trip. The first real suit. The holiday gifts. A slow afternoon that turned into a family outing. Not long ago, this brand ranked among the true giants of American retail. Hundreds of locations, coast to coast. Today, it keeps closing the ones that no longer earn their keep. Here is why that reaches far past Macy's itself. A big department store is an anchor. It drags shoppers past every small shop in the mall. Pull the anchor out, and those little shops lose the foot traffic they quietly lived on. That is why malls once bursting 20 years back now feel hollow and echoing. And notice what did not change. Shoppers still fill their closets. They still wrap presents in December. The spending did not vanish. It simply stopped flowing through these doors. That is the real wound. A brand can survive a bad year. It can survive inflation. What it cannot survive is turning into a place nobody bothers to choose. When one of these anchors goes dark, people finally accept that their mall is not coming back. Let me pause the countdown for a second. A shape is already forming. Look at the two stories we just told. One store sold speed. One sold a day out with the family. Different products. Same ending. So what is the thread? It is not theft. It is not laziness. It is a slow squeeze on the household budget. Rent climbed. Insurance climbed. Groceries climbed. Your paycheck climbed too, maybe. Just not fast enough to keep pace. So something has to give. And the first thing to give is never the rent. It is the small, easy trip that used to feel like nothing. Here's the part nobody says out loud. When money gets tight, people go quiet about it. They do not post about it. They just stop going places. They stop browsing. They buy the one thing and leave. Now multiply that behavior across millions of homes. You get exactly what we are watching. Empty lots. Shrinking chains. Plywood where a familiar sign used to hang. I want to be precise here, because this is the whole thesis. The store is not the illness. The store is the thermometer. And right now the reading keeps climbing. So hold that idea as we go. Every name on this list is telling you the same story in a slightly different accent. The household is under pressure. These closures are how that pressure becomes something you can see. Number 10. Big Lots. A discounted couch. A mattress knocked down a few $100s. A random find at a price that made you grin. That was the whole pull of Big Lots. Not luxury. Just a way to stretch a dollar further than it should reach. It was never as big as Walmart. Never as polished as Target. But when budgets tightened, this is where families turned. You could walk in with $100 in your pocket and walk out feeling like you brought home something real for the people you love. That feeling carried real weight. Now the bargain hunt is ending. Big Lots filed for bankruptcy. Hundreds of its stores winded on closure lists. And here is the irony I keep circling back to. A rough economy is supposed to help a discount store. When money tightens, shoppers trade down. They chase deals. Discount chains are built to win in exactly this kind of weather. But this time the pattern broke. And the reason should worry you. The core Big Lots customer is not only hunting a bargain. That customer is fighting rent, groceries, insurance, and a whole stack of bills. When the squeeze bites that hard, even a cheap sofa turns into a purchase you keep postponing. The mattress waits another year. The dining set becomes a fantasy for later. That is the trap this brand fell into. It was built to serve people trying to save money. But when the pressure spikes high enough, those same people stop buying at all, discount or not. A chain designed for tight budgets could not survive genuinely tight budgets. Sit with that for a moment. When the deal store cannot move product, the tightening has reached a new floor. Number 9. Joann. A blanket folded over the back of a couch. A Halloween costume stitched for a grandchild by hand. A gift that lasts for years instead of getting tossed after one holiday. A lot of those things began in one place. They began at Joann. This store was different from the others here. It was not about the lowest price or the fastest trip. Nobody sprinted through the doors to grab and go. People came to make something. A weekend project. A gift with their own hands pressed into it. That Kohl built one of the biggest craft chains in the country. More than 800 stores at its peak. Now many of those doors are locked for good. After bankruptcy, the company began shutting locations across the map. And the reason it fell is worth sitting with. It did not collapse because people quit crafting. The opposite is true. Handmade projects have never been more popular. Everybody talks about making things with their hands. But talking about a hobby and paying for one are two different acts. When groceries climb and the power bill climbs and the rent climbs, something has to go. The craft supplies get cut first. Creativity itself is free. The yarn and the fabric are not. So a brand built on making things withered right as making things went viral. For loyal customers, losing this chain was not losing a store. It was losing the last easy place where an idea became something you could hold. Number 8. Family Dollar. It is 9 at night. You are out of toilet paper. The detergent ran dry. Your grandkid needs a notebook by morning. Nobody plans for these moments. They just land on you. And they need fixing right now, tonight, not in 2 days. In a lot of towns, Family Dollar was that fix. Not the place for a big weekend haul, the place for the small emergency. A refill of hand soap, a carton of eggs, A cheap spiral notebook before the bus comes? That roll grew the chain past 8,000 stores. Many of them sat in small towns and thin neighborhoods, places where the closest Walmart meant a serious drive. Now, hundreds of those locations are on closure lists, and the damage shows up fast. A quick errand becomes a longer drive. A reliable option simply evaporates. A task that took 5 minutes now eats half an hour and a tank of gas. Here's what people tend to underrate. Family Dollar never really sold special products. It sold presents. It was simply there. You knew you could stop in and handle a small problem without a second thought. And presence is the hardest thing to replace once it disappears. You do not miss the soap. You miss the certainty that something close was always open when life threw one more curveball. Most people only feel that value the day the doors stay locked. By then, the nearest option sits a highway away. The rhythm of a tight week gets harder. Let me name the pattern more sharply now. It is the engine driving this entire list. There is a gap between what people want and what people can actually afford. And these stores are dying inside that exact gap. People still want to celebrate. They still want to craft. They still want the cheap couch and the corner store snack. The desire is completely intact. What broke is the ability to act on it. That is a very different economy than the one these brands were designed for. Think about your own last few shopping trips. I would bet you have done this without even noticing. You set something in the cart. You ran the quiet math in your head. Then you set it back. Not because you did not want it, because the running total kept creeping up, and the little extra felt like the responsible thing to sacrifice. That is not a personal failure. That is a paycheck losing a slow race against the cost of living. Now run that same math across tens of millions of people. On the same ordinary afternoon, the combined effect is enormous. It does not look like a crisis. There is no crash, no siren. There is just a candle set back on a shelf, again and again, until a chain built on those little extras cannot keep its lights on. The wanting never stopped. The room and the budget did. And this is the cruelty of a slow squeeze. It never announces itself. There was no single terrible month. Just a baseline that creeps upward while the paycheck holds still. $1 more on eggs. A couple more on gas. Another jump on the insurance renewal. None of it feels like a crisis on its own, but together they quietly eat the room you used to have. The extras go first, then the small comforts, then, eventually, the store that sold them. Number 7. Party City. A mother plans her child's birthday. She drives over the way she always has, but she pulls in and the store is gone. Not remodeled, not moved. Just an empty box where the liquidation banners came down weeks ago. That is the moment it clicked for a lot of people. For years, the routine was simple. A birthday, Halloween, a graduation, a baby shower. This chain was almost always the first stop. And notice what set it apart from the rest of the list. It was not built on survival. It was built on the moments people most want to remember. That is what makes the fall so telling. Nobody stopped having birthdays. Nobody canceled Halloween. The celebrations are all still here, but the company built around them filed for bankruptcy. Hundreds of locations closed their doors and cleared out the shelves. So what actually happened? Piece by piece, its reasons to exist were stripped away. You can grab decorations at Walmart now. You can order a full theme on your phone. You can have it on the porch by tomorrow morning. There was no single knockout blow, just fewer and fewer reasons to make the drive. And that is the quiet irony of it. The chain did not fade because celebration died. It faded because the party no longer required a trip down its aisles. Nobody lost their birthday. They lost a brand that had been woven into the memory for decades. Number 6. Kohl's. A shirt hangs on the rack, marks down 40%. The shopper lifts it. She pulls out her phone. She taps a few times. A moment later, the shirt goes back. No frustration. No complaint. She just keeps walking. That small scene repeats more and more across this chain. For years, Kohl's did not only move clothes and towels. It sold a feeling. The feeling that you had just outsmarted the system. A 20% coupon. A 30% coupon stacked on top of the store's own rewards cash. You walked out convinced you had won. That little victory is what dragged people back through the doors. But the game changed under everyone's feet. The rival is no longer the shop a few miles down the road. The rival is the entire internet, sorted by lowest price, sitting in your palm. One tap reveals where that identical shirt costs less. And once that becomes a reflex, the old coupon loses its magic. A discount stops feeling secret when anyone can pull up the real number in seconds. The chain still runs more than 1,000 stores, but it keeps shutting the weak ones. And it keeps searching for a fresh reason to pull people back inside. Here is the part that matters most. The customers drifting away are not angry. They are simply drifting. One purchase slides over to Amazon, another to Target, another straight from the brand's own website. Each single choice is tiny, but millions of tiny choices stack into a landslide. This brand earns its spot because the reason to stop in has quietly gone missing. Number 5. Rite Aid. Someone drives over to grab a prescription. Same as every month. But today the door is locked. A single notice hangs on the glass instead. Every prescription got routed to some other branch, and sometimes somewhere else is genuinely far. That experience is spreading as this chain keeps vanishing from towns. At its height, the company ran more than 2,000 stores. After bankruptcy and restructuring, hundreds have gone dark. And this brand is different from most on the list in one crucial way. People did not come here because they wanted to. They came because they had no choice. Heart medication, diabetes supplies, blood pressure pills, a prescription the doctor phoned in an hour ago. You cannot postpone any of that. You need it today. So when one of these closes, the damage cuts far deeper than a single storefront. An older neighbor now faces a far longer drive, sometimes longer than they can safely handle. A family scrambles to move their whole prescription history to a new counter. Someone starts over and prays nothing falls through the cracks. Each change looks minor on its own, but stack them across hundreds of towns and a pattern emerges. Places that felt permanent turn out to be anything but. And this is where the household squeeze gets frighteningly personal. It is one thing to skip a birthday decoration. It is another thing entirely to lose easy access to the medicine keeping you upright. This decline is not really measured in shuttered buildings. It is measured in people. In the ones who wake up one morning to find a fixed point of their week simply gone. For someone managing a chronic illness on a fixed income, that gap is not a mild hassle. It is a real danger. Number 4. Best Buy. An employee spends nearly 15 minutes walking a customer through 2 televisions. The customer nods, fires off a few sharp questions, offers a polite thanks, then leaves with nothing in hand. By nightfall, the identical set lands in an online cart instead. That single scene is one of the hardest problems this chain faces. And notice what the problem is not. People did not stop buying electronics. They are spending plenty on technology, maybe more than ever before. This was the place you went to touch the product first, to see it with your own eyes before parting with hundreds, sometimes thousands of dollars. A laptop, a sound system, a screen the size of a wall. Plenty of shoppers still do exactly that dance. The catch is where the money finally lands. More and more, the actual purchase happens somewhere else. On a phone. Later that same night. That is why it still ranks among the country's biggest electronic sellers. Even as it quietly shutters weaker stores, the doors are not empty. The problem is far quieter than an empty store. People walk in, they soak up the advice. They walk out without spending a dime. Turn a shop into a free showroom. A place to look, but never to buy. Its reason to exist quietly rots. And you can trace this straight back to the same squeeze. When every dollar is watched, people fight harder for the lowest possible price. They lean on the staff's expertise inside the store. Then they chase the cheaper number online from the couch. This brand is not here because gadgets fell out of fashion. It is here because a tighter budget rewired where people finally tap by. So where is all this spending actually going? The money did not evaporate into thin air. People still eat, still celebrate, still buy the television in the end. The dollars just change direction. And following them tells you who is quietly winning while these familiar names go dark. Some of it slid online to the warehouses and the delivery vans you now see prowling every street. Some of it moved to the handful of giants that can undercut everyone on price. And a growing share of it did not move anywhere at all, because it never got spent. That is the piece that matters most for us. A rising slice of the household budget is not shifting to a competitor. It is simply gone, swallowed whole by rent and insurance and the plain cost of staying afloat. Here's the honest framing. This is not really a tale of winners and losers in retail. It is a tale of a middle-class budget squeezed from every direction at once, and of businesses built for that middle class. Now they find less of it left to sell to. The stores did not misjudge their shoppers. Their shoppers ran out of room to spend, and that should reshape how you watch the rest of this list. Do not just ask which store is closing. Ask what it means that the very people who kept it breathing have run dry. Because that same answer is probably sitting inside your own budget right now. Whether or not you have worked up the nerve to look at it, there is one more piece worth naming out loud. Wages did rise for a lot of people. On paper, the raise looked real enough. But rent rose faster. Insurance rose faster. The grocery bill outran all of it. So the bigger paycheck bought less at the register than the smaller one did years ago. That is the quiet cruelty of this stretch. You can earn more and still feel poor. And no store survives on customers who feel poorer every single month. Number 3, Dollar Tree. You walk in with $20. You do not pull out your phone. You do not compare prices. You barely do any math at all. You already know, more or less, what you are carrying home. That certainty made this chain a fixture in millions of households. And notice the real product on the shelves. The magic was never that everything cost $1. The magic was that you did not have to worry about the total. In a world where every price keeps creeping upward, this store offered something genuinely rare. Predictability. You walked in, grabbed what you needed, and knew the damage before you ever reached the register. That feeling is fading now. The old single price promise is cracked. More and more items show up wearing $3 and $5 tags. People still come through the doors, but the clean simplicity that built the brand has gotten muddier. The chain still runs thousands of stores nationwide, yet it has announced plans to close hundreds of them in a restructuring. And for a lot of people, this story was never really about $1. It was about certainty, about trusting that at least one line of the budget still behaved itself, about one corner of life staying predictable when everything else refused to. So when a store with that name stops delivering, customers start asking bigger questions than price. Because the hardest thing to replace is not a cheap item. It is the calm of knowing precisely what is waiting past those doors before you step in. Number 2, J.C. Penney. Walk inside today. The escalators keep moving. Overhead lights still glow. Soft music still floats between the racks. But step inside today and most visitors leave with the same quiet impression. It feels emptier than it used to. Not closing time empty. Just too still for a space this size. Plenty of us grew up inside this brand. Back to school clothes. Holiday shopping. A first suit for a first real job. A whole Saturday spent at the mall with the family. For a lot of households, this was not merely a store. It was a ritual. It was where parents took the kids before every new school year. That role grew it into one of retail's most recognized American names. Thousands of stores at its peak. Today that footprint is dramatically smaller after years of closures. The company even filed for bankruptcy back in 2020. It dodged the very worst outcome only after a change in ownership. But the real story here is not the store count. Shoppers still need clothing. They still need goods for the house. Those needs never went away. What disappeared is the habit itself. The habit of treating the mall as part of ordinary life. More people shop from the couch now. Fewer will spend a whole afternoon wandering under one giant roof. And when that habit shifts, the brands that lived on it must reinvent themselves or fade away. This chain did not stumble over one big mistake. It is trying to survive in a world that looks nothing like the one that raised it. And sometimes the clearest sign a brand is slipping away is not a locked door. It is the silence that settles into a place that used to hum with life. Number 1. Dollar General. A shopper walks in holding a list of 10 things. They leave with 6. And here is the part that matters. The store had every single item. The other 4 are still sitting right there on the shelf. A pack of their favorite chips. A little Campbell for the kitchen. A $1 coloring book a grandkid would light up over. A treat the household usually keeps in the pantry. They looked at each one for a beat. Then they walked away and left them behind. That exact scene plays out every single day. And it is why this brand holds the #1 spot. This chain grew up serving small towns and quiet communities that never had many other options. Today it operates more than 20,000 locations. That store count beats every other retail chain in America. This is not a company on the edge of vanishing tomorrow. So why does it top the whole list? Because the real story is not the store count at all. It is what happens inside the shopping basket. Management has said it plainly, over and over. Customers are narrowing down to the bare essentials. Milk, toilet paper, a bar of soap. Those still make it into the cart every time. The small pleasures are the things quietly getting left behind. And that might not sound dramatic, but sit with what is actually being abandoned. It is not the stuff people need to survive. It is the stuff that makes surviving feel a little more like living. A favorite snack, a tiny gift, a small reward at the end of a long, brutal week. When millions of shoppers quietly abandon those exact things, this stops being a story about one retailer. It turns into a window straight into homes everywhere. Because here's the truth this whole list has been circling. The clearest sign of financial pressure is almost never the giant bill. It is not the mortgage, not the car payment. Those are the numbers you already brace yourself for. It is the small thing. The little treat you once tossed in the cart without a second thought. And now you pause. You run the math. You set it back down before you reach the register. That pause is the signal. And across the country, that pause is getting louder. So step back and take in the whole list. 12 names. 12 different products. One single story running underneath all of it. And maybe the most striking part is not any one store at all. It is that gut feeling. Cruising past a spot that anchored years of your routine. And catching an empty shell where it once stood. A sign comes down. A door gets locked. A mall goes a little quieter. These changes happen slowly. So slowly that you barely register them. Until one day you go looking for that familiar place. And you realize the whole landscape shifted while you were just getting by. Let me be clear about one thing. This channel is not here to frighten you. None of this is your fault. You did the work. You paid the bills. You made the responsible choice at the register 1,000 times over. The system tightened around you. And you adapted, quietly, the way people always do. The candle set back on the shelf is not weakness. It is arithmetic. And you have run that arithmetic in your head more often than you would admit. So here's what I would ask of you. The next time you set something small back on the shelf, notice it. Do not judge yourself for the choice. Just notice it. Write it down if it helps. Because that little pause is real data about the pressure on your own home. And once you see the pressure clearly, you can plan around it. Instead of quietly drowning in it. Naming the squeeze is the first move toward protecting your family from it. Now I want to hear from you. Out of everything we covered today, which store surprised you most? And is there a place near you that closed or completely changed over the last few years? Tell me down in the comments. I read a lot of them. And honestly, some of the best video ideas start right there. Thanks for staying with me to the end. I will see you in the next one.